There's a difference between making people do what you want and making people want to follow you. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote for rulers who needed survival and order. His insights cut through benevolent myths and reveal how power actually works. But influence has two faces, one cruel, one constructive. This script will teach you the ruthlessly effective craft of presence and strategic persuasion without abandoning ethics. You'll learn to command respect, direct attention, and negotiate outcomes while preserving dignity and consent. Everything begins with presence. Presence is the gravitational field you emit. It draws attention, focuses the room, and quietly asks others to align with you. The unshakable person doesn't force. They occupy space so convincingly that others choose to move. 1. The foundation. Why presence matters. Presence is shorthand for credibility, competence, and emotional control. In any social system, corporate, political, romantic, or creative, people naturally orient toward the person who appears steady, decisive, and internally governed. Why? Because evolution wired humans to prefer predictable anchors in uncertain environments. Presence reduces perceived risk. Machiavelli thought in terms of reputation and perception. A prince who appears strong is safer than a prince who is weak, even if the first is kinder. Translate that to today. Your aura is your reputation in motion, what you signal every time you open your mouth, enter a room, or send a message. Presence converts ambiguity into clarity. It shortens decision cycles. It persuades without explicit argument because it answers the silent question people always ask. Who is in charge here? 2. The inner work. Emotional control and clear values. The outer aura starts with inner work. You can fake a voice or a posture for a while. You can't sustain a convincing aura if your internal state is chaotic. Work on 3 internal pillars. Emotional regulation. Learn to hold your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Practices that help: breathwork, brief mindfulness 2, 5 minutes before a meeting, journaling to clarify recurring triggers. Emotional control isn't coldness, it's the absence of reactivity. It lets you respond strategically rather than reflexively. Clarified principles. Decide what you stand for, your core values and non-negotiables. People follow those who are consistent. Machiavelli praised predictability in rulers, where predictability means strategic certainty, not moral softness. When others know your boundaries and priorities, they can safely engage with you. Purposeful goals. Influence without direction is vanity. Have a clear mission for each interaction. Are you inspiring, negotiating, delegating, testing? Your intent should shape tone, pace, and content. 3. The outer signals. Appearance, voice, and movement. Humans process nonverbal cues before language. Your posture, voice, gaze, and dress produce the first verdict about you. Master these and you buy attention. Neglect them and you waste words. Posture and movement. Stand centered. Small, controlled movements convey command. Avoid jittery gestures. When you enter a room, move like someone who owns time. Slow, deliberate steps read as confidence. Eye contact and listening. Use steady, respectful eye contact. Listen more than you speak, but when you speak, make every word count. People who control attention listen well. They summarize and redirect conversations with surgical clarity. Voice, lowering pitch slightly, slowing cadence, and pausing deliberately increases perceived authority. Practice short, calm statements rather than long, breathless monologues. Dress and grooming. Create a consistent, slightly elevated visual brand. It doesn't have to be expensive. It must be intentional. A consistent look reduces cognitive friction and raises perceived competence. These signals create the frame. You are the person who sets tone and standards for the interaction. 4. The economy of attention. Say less, mean more. One of Machiavelli's lessons. People are shaped by what they experience, not by what you intend. Limit your statements. Ambiguity often works in your favor because it forces others to project. Speak in crisp propositions and leave room for interpretation. Minimalism in speech. Use strong, succinct sentences. The fewer words you need to make a point, the more powerful the point becomes. Strategic silence. Use pauses as instruments. Let a few seconds of silence work on the other person. It encourages them to reveal more, to fill the space. Anchoring, begin with a firm statement of intent, a single sentence that establishes the frame. Everything else becomes commentary. Less is not withdrawal, it's economy. You preserve strength by not wasting it on noise. 5. The reputation engine. Consistency plus strategic storytelling. A strong aura requires a reputation engine that works even when you aren't present. Machiavelli understood reputation as a ruler's currency. For you, it's your professional and social capital. Consistent behavior. Small repetitive actions build trust and predictability. If you deliver on one promise reliably, people infer you'll deliver elsewhere. Strategic storytelling. Narratives are the vessel for reputation. Tell short stories, even one-line anecdotes, that illustrate your principles and success. Make your history a patchwork of lessons rather than boasts. Visible standards. Publicize 1 or 2 standards you never compromise. Punctuality. Quality, integrity. People respect boundaries when they are enforced consistently. 6. The moral frame. Ethical influence versus coercion. Important detour. Influence becomes toxic when it aims to override consent. We transform Machiavellian clarity into something constructive by enforcing a moral frame. Consent and autonomy. Persuasion aims at aligning incentives and understanding needs, not removing options. Use influence to create mutual advantage. Transparency where possible, while strategy requires discretion. Practice explicitness about outcomes that affect people's welfare. For instance, this decision will require sacrifices. I want to be upfront about the trade-offs. Proportionality. The harder your ask, the clearer your reason. The greater the cost, the larger the incentive. Ethical influence is durable. Coercion generates compliance that vanishes when oversight fades. 7. Tactical credibility. Competence, courage, and integrity. Influence is credibility under pressure. Machiavelli admired decisiveness because it signals competence. Build 3 credibility pillars. Competence, be visibly prepared. Know your facts, anticipate questions. And present clarity. Competence reduces doubt. Courage, take responsibility under uncertainty. Take reasonable risks. People respect leaders who step up. Integrity, follow through. When you break a promise, explain why and reset expectations. Broken commitments are credibility leaks that compound. Small acts of competence and courage create a compound effect. People begin to bet on you authoritatively. 8. Psychological levers. Reciprocity. Scarcity and social proof, ethically applied. Influence uses human psychology. Here are powerful levers, retooled for ethical persuasion. Reciprocity. Help people first in ways that matter to them. Reciprocity isn't manipulation if the initial help is genuine and not a bait. Scarcity. Limited opportunities are real time. Budget openings. Frame offers honestly with real constraints, not manufactured scarcity. Social proof. Use testimonials and case studies to show that others have chosen your path. Authentic social proof reduces perceived risk for followers. Apply these levers with visible benefit to others. They should always see the exchange's fairness. 9. Negotiation as influence. Win-win, not win-crush. Power sportsmanship. A final contract of influence is negotiation. The Machiavellian negotiator secures outcomes without burning bridges. Core techniques. BATNA. Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Know your options. When you have alternatives, you negotiate from strength without threats. Framing offers. Present options that highlight mutual gain. Reframe objections as problems to jointly solve. First offers if prepared. An informed first offer anchors the deal, but don't anchor recklessly. Anchoring works when you establish credibility first. Concessions with strings. If you concede, extract a reciprocal concession. This keeps fairness visible. Negotiation practiced ethically creates long-term partners rather than one-time victims. 10. Rituals and habits that maintain aura. Presence is not an act you flip on. It's maintained by rituals. Daily prep ritual. 10 minutes before major interactions. Breath. Posture check. One-line objective. Weekly reflection. Log 3 wins, 3 mistakes, and 1 lesson. Boundary practice. Say no twice a week to something unaligned. Learning loop. Read short, targeted materials, articles, case studies to keep competence sharp. Rituals automate your standards, so presence becomes habitual rather than heroic. Closing of Part 1, the steady introduction. To forge an aura of unshakable influence, you begin inside and radiate outward. You build emotional sovereignty, refine your signals, manage attention, and cultivate a reputation, engine of consistency. Machiavelli's darkness gives you clarity. The world responds to strength, order, and certainty. But modern ethics demand a different question than, how do I make people obey? Instead ask, how do I become the person others willingly trust and follow? That is the real power. It looks cold from the outside because it's disciplined, and discipline feels like distance to those who prefer chaos. But within that distance lies influence that is durable, ethical, and deeply effective. The mechanics of influence, advanced techniques, narrative control, and negotiation mastery. You've built presence, you've steadied your inner state, tuned your signals, and begun to generate reputation. Now we go deeper. The practical machinery that turns presence into predictable influence. This part teaches the advanced techniques, how to shape stories, manage resistance, negotiate with power, design environments that steer behavior, and maintain moral clarity while getting results. 1. Narrative control. Own the story, own the room. People live in stories, facts matter, but the story around those facts determines action. Machiavelli wrote about image and myth, because myths endure where facts are forgotten. You must become a careful author of narratives that support your goals. How to do it ethically. Frame the context first, before you introduce facts. Set the frame, why this matters, who benefits, what's at stake. Frame simplify complex choices, and shape emotional responses. Use archetypal language. Terms like guardian, builder, protector, or innovator evoke instincts. Choose an archetype that aligns with your values and mission. Control the tempo of information. Release information in a sequence that builds momentum. Problem right arrow, consequence right arrow, solution. People move when urgency is followed by a credible path forward. Create repeatable motifs. Short phrases or metaphors, for example. Clear the fog, steady the ship, make your message sticky. Correct the story quickly. When rumors or misinterpretations appear, address them fast with concise facts and your chosen frame. Silence lets others rewrite your narrative. Remember, owning a narrative isn't manipulation when you're truthful about outcomes and transparent about trade-offs. It's simply strategic communication. 2. Design influence architectures. Make the environment do the work. Influence is easiest when the environment nudges people toward the outcomes you want. This isn't trickery, it's design. Architect behavior through choice architecture, defaults and friction. Practical approaches, default options. Make the desired choice the easiest one. In a team setting, present a recommended option as the default and explain how to opt out. Friction points. Add small frictions to undesirable behaviors. For example, require a brief written justification for budget increases. Remove friction from positive actions. One-click approvals, templates. Visibility and accountability. Public dashboards and visible deadlines increase follow-through. People perform better when their actions are observable. Micro-incentives. Small, immediate rewards for desired behavior recognition. Badges, quick feedback. Build habit loops without large cost. Feedback loops. Build rapid feedback so people learn cause and effect. When actions lead clearly to outcomes, adherence increases. Design your systems so that they favor the outcomes you want. Then influence becomes scalable and less dependent on charisma alone. 3. Persuasion mechanics. Ethically powerful techniques. Here are advanced persuasion techniques you can use responsibly. Persuasion. Prime attention before you ask. Briefly remind people of shared values or past successes before making your request. It makes them more receptive. Foot in the door. Start with a small ask that's likely to be accepted. Then escalate, ethically used. This builds momentum toward collaborative decisions. Contrast principle. Present options so the preferred choice looks reasonable. Offer a high-cost alternative first. Then the real option appears favorable: commitment and consistency. Get small verbal or written commitments early. People tend to act consistently with their stated positions. Authority signaling. Show competence and credentials subtly, case studies, relevant experience, and endorsements. People trust proven competence. Always pair technique with transparency and consent. Use these tools to create mutual gain, not hidden traps. 4. Negotiation mastery. Power without burning bridges. Negotiation is where influence becomes concrete. You aim to secure outcomes while preserving relationships and your reputation. That's strategic power, Machiavellian in outcome, ethical in method. Framework to follow. Preparation is everything. Map interests, yours and theirs. Alternatives, BATNAs, and pressures. The side with superior preparation controls the agenda. Set the agenda. Whoever frames the agenda controls what gets discussed. Begin with high-value, objective topics to set a cooperative tone. Value creation before value claim. Identify ways to expand the pie. Trade across different priorities, time, money, prestige. Once value exists, divide it fairly. Use calibrated questions. Ask how and what questions to turn opponents into problem solvers. How can we make this work? Shifts responsibility onto them constructively. Anchor wisely. If you make the first offer, anchor ambitiously but reasonably. If they anchor first, reframe and present a counter-anchor with logic. Escalate and decouple. If talks stall, propose small test projects or phased deals. Decoupling reduces risk and builds trust gradually. Walk away power. Protect your BATNA. The ability to leave is the clearest signal of strength that doesn't require aggression. Negotiation is optimization, not conquest. The best deals preserve dignity and create repeatable partnerships. 5. Handling resistance. Move, don't fight. Resistance is information. Instead of reacting defensively, learn to treat pushback as an opportunity to refine your proposal or deepen relationships. Tactics. Listen to hidden concerns. People resist when they fear loss. Name the fear. It sounds like you worry about X, and address it directly. Offer credible guarantees. Pilot programs, refunds, or trial periods reduce perceived risk and turn skeptics into testers. Reframe losses as investments. Translate what they give up into what they gain. Skills, influence, security. Use neutral third parties. Independent experts or case studies can shift perception without a personal power play. Practice graceful concession. If you concede, make it conditional and visible. This preserves reciprocity. I'll do X if you commit to Y. Move around resistance, don't smash it. That preserves relationships and your own moral standing. 6. Crisis influence. Lead when the ship rocks. The real test of your aura is crisis. People judge leaders on how they act under pressure. Do you panic or provide clarity? Crisis playbook. Immediate clarity within the first hour. Issue a concise, honest statement of what you know, what you don't, and next steps. Visible competence. Demonstrate rapid decision-making, even if choices are imperfect. Vacillation kills trust. Protect your team. People follow leaders who protect them. Be the person who shoulders blame and points to solutions. Narrative management. Use frames that emphasize resilience and shared purpose. Avoid blame narratives that fracture coalition. After-action fairness. Once the crisis ends, analyze responsibly. Reward those who helped. Hold accountable those who harmed. And communicate lessons learned. Crisis often amplifies influence. Use it to build credibility, not to crush dissent. 7. Advanced reputation management. Permanence of perception. Reputation compounds. Small reputational gains or losses snowball. You must be proactive, not reactive. Strategies. Presence in public records. Publish articles. Give talks and curate content that reflects your expertise. Digital traces define you to strangers. Strategic endorsements. Align with respected figures whose values match yours. Authentic endorsements are credibility multipliers. Visible accountability. Admit mistakes quickly and outline corrective action. Transparency builds long-term trust. Protect core narratives. Regularly reinforce your key storylines. For example, we prioritize quality over speed. through leadership actions and communications. Reputation insurance. Build buffers, mentors, allies, and a small inner circle who will advocate for you when needed. A strong reputation reduces the friction of future influence. 8. Scaling influence. Systems, teams, and delegation. If your influence must extend beyond you, you need systems and people who embody your aura. How to scale. Train standards into others. Teach people how you make decisions. Framework. Tone, priorities. Replication beats charisma alone. Institutionalize rituals, meeting cadences, decision templates, and onboarding scripts embed your norms. Empower delegates with constraints. Give autonomy within clear boundaries. This preserves consistency and reduces micromanagement. Reward cultural fit. Hire and promote those who model your presence and ethical influence. Audit frequently. Use data and qualitative feedback to ensure systems are producing intended cultural outcomes. Scale influence by shaping institutions, not by being the only source of authority. 9. The ethics checklist. Boundaries to never cross. Before you deploy any powerful technique, run it through an ethics filter. Ask, does this respect others' autonomy? Would I accept this tactic if roles were reversed? Is the outcome mutually beneficial or primarily extractive? Are we transparent about trade-offs that affect others' welfare? If the answer fails any test, revise your approach. Ethical power is sustainable power. 10. Closing the loop. Practice, feedback, iterate. Influence is a craft. You'll get better through deliberate practice. Record and review. Record key conversations with consent and review performance. Feedback partners. Keep a small group who will tell you hard truths. Micro tests. Try new tactics in low-stakes settings before high-stakes deployment. Continuous learning. Read case studies of leaders who succeeded and failed. Reverse engineer their moves. Iterate fast. The market of human attention punishes slowness. Part 2 Summary. From presence to predictable influence. In Part 1, you constructed an unshakable presence. In Part 2, you turned that presence into repeatable mechanics, narrative control, environment design, advanced persuasion, negotiation mastery, crisis leadership, reputation engineering, and scalable systems. These are not tricks to coerce. They are tools to build predictable, ethical influence that endures. The deep work, psychology, defensive strategy, and ethical stoicism. You now have presence, systems, narratives, and negotiation mastery. Part 3 is where the work gets surgical. You'll learn how to read hidden motivations, neutralize manipulators without becoming one, anchor your ethics under pressure, and create rituals that make disciplined influence automatic. This is the anatomy of resilient, moral power. 1. The psychology of influence. Reading the hidden game. People rarely say what they mean. They reveal intent through patterns, not promises, to influence deeply. Train yourself to see beneath words and into incentives. Key cues to read. Consistency gaps. When behavior contradicts stated values. The latter is cheap talk. Track actions, not speeches. Emotion to action lag. Watch how quickly emotion turns into behavior. Quick escalation, anger, envy, signals instability. Slow build signals calculated intent. Reciprocity debt. Who gives freely? Who expects immediate payback? Those who keep score early are transactional players. Status seeking. People who constantly name drop or reframe wins may be insecure. They can be useful allies in exchange for visible credit. Risk tolerance. Observe who takes small, incremental risks versus who makes dramatic gambles. Your strategy must match their profile. Practical routine. After important interactions, jot 3 behavioral observations and 1 predicted future move. This trains your predictive model of people. 2. Defensive strategy. Neutralize manipulators ethically. Manipulators are everywhere. Gaslighters, charmers with hidden motives, passive-aggressive coworkers, social media saboteurs. You don't have to fight dirty. Use clean, preemptive countermeasures. Tactics to neutralize manipulation. Set explicit boundaries. Say, I don't discuss X in meetings, or I won't respond to requests after 8 p.m. Boundaries reduce leverage. Call the pattern, not the person. When deadlines shift without warning, it forces the team to scramble. that names behavior and makes change objective. Document interactions, keep short, dated notes or follow-up emails summarizing agreements. This removes ambiguity and reduces gaslighting opportunities. Controlled exposure. Limit the frequency and intensity of contact with manipulators. Make interactions structured. Agenda time-box outcomes. Third-party verification. Use neutral approvals for contested claims. Moving disputes into the light discourages manipulation. If someone tries to provoke you, respond with a calm, factual statement that reframes the situation. Don't mirror hostility. That's how manipulators thrive. 3. Counter-manipulation. Influence back without losing morals. Sometimes you need to push back, persuade an adversary, or steer a hostile stakeholder. Do it with precision. Ethical counter-influence moves. Preemptive framing. Before a manipulative narrative spreads, frame the issue with facts and incentives. Here are the trade-offs we face and my suggested guardrails. Offer structured choices. Give 2 acceptable options rather than a yes-no trap. People feel agency and are likelier to choose the option you prefer. Use standards, not personalities, when demanding accountability. Reference agreed-upon criteria per our SLA, rather than personal attacks. Leverage impartial metrics. Use KPIs, timestamps, and independent audits to shift discussions from emotion to evidence. Make reciprocity explicit. When asking for a concession, make the reciprocity visible. I'll do X if you commit to Y in writing. You can be assertive without weaponizing relationships. 4. Stoic practices for the ethical power player. Cold-headedness isn't numbness, it's discipline. Stoic practices help you maintain composure and moral clarity. Daily Stoic micro-practices. Morning negative visualization, 5 minutes. Briefly imagine potential setbacks so surprises hurt less, and you plan contingencies. Pre-mortem before big decisions. Ask what could make this fail. Identify mitigations up front. Evening debrief, 10 minutes. Log what you controlled, what you didn't, and one small lesson. This builds accountability. Pause ritual before any high-stakes message. Breathe 6-4-6, inhale 6S, hold 4S, exhale 6S, and reframe the objective in one sentence. Value check. Weekly, ask if your actions matched your stated values. If not, adjust tactics or goals. Stoicism trains you to treat emotions as data, not directives. That's the ethical backbone of cold strategy. 5. Moral guardrails. Make ethics operational. Don't leave morality to intuition. Create operational guardrails, rules that are easy to check under stress. Examples of guardrails. No coercion rule. Any persuasion that removes meaningful choice is banned. Proportionality test. Any action that harms must have a documented proportional benefit to the many over the few. Transparency trigger. If an action impacts stakeholders materially, disclose it within X days with rationale. Appeals process. Give people harmed an avenue to appeal or be heard. Fairness reduces long-term backlash. Mentor review. For large ethical gray area moves, consult a trusted advisor before acting. Operational ethics prevent slippery slopes and preserve legitimacy. 6. Building an inner circle that reflects your values. Your closest allies shape you. A wise leader curates an inner circle that challenges, not flatters. How to build that circle? Diversity of discomfort. Include people who disagree respectfully. Comfort-based echo chambers erode judgment. Confidants who call out behavior. Recruit 1-2 people whose job is to point out blind spots. Compensate them for candor, competence, and moral fit. Hire talent that demonstrates both skill and ethical instincts. Excellence without integrity is dangerous. Rotation and audits. Rotate inner circle roles periodically. It prevents collusion and keeps perspectives fresh. A disciplined inner circle helps you remain cold in strategy but warm in humanity. 7. The reputation sandbox. Low-risk testing grounds. Before deploying aggressive influence at scale, test tactics in controlled settings. Sandbox blueprint. Micro projects. Run a short pilot with a small team to see how tactics affect behavior. Control groups. Compare 2 approaches side by side and measure retention, sentiment, and performance. Feedback mismatch checks. Actively solicit criticism from those likely to disagree. Their pain points show hidden costs. Scaled rollouts, if the pilot succeeds. Expand in stages, preserving the ability to pause. This method reduces collateral damage while preserving learning speed. 8. The long game. Legacies, systems, and institutional power. Ethical long-term influence is not charisma alone. It's institutions that outlast individuals. How to transition from person power to system power. Codify decisions. Turn successful patterns into policies and playbooks. Train successors. Create mentorship tracks to seed your philosophy responsibly. Institutional checks. Build guardrails into the system so that no single leader can easily abuse power. Cultural rituals. Institute rights onboarding. Recognition that reinforce your ethical norms across generations. Power that survives you must be principled, not merely personal. 9. When to retreat. The wisdom of strategic withdrawal. Cold strategy isn't perpetual aggression. Retreat is often the wisest move. Signs it's time to withdraw. Cost exceeds benefit. If reputational or moral cost outweighs gains, step back. Institutional resistance hardens when an organization's inertia is immovable. Forcing change burns political capital. Scarcity of allies. If your coalition fractures, victory will be Pyrrhic. Rebuild first. Personal erosion. If tactics erode your core values or mental health, reassess. A strategic retreat preserves resources for future fights and maintains your integrity. 10. Rituals to stay human while being ruthlessly effective. Power without humanity becomes tyranny. Use rituals that reconnect you to purpose, humility, and community. Simple rituals. Monthly gratitude letters. Write short notes to people who helped you. This builds reciprocity and humility. Community service hours. Spend time each quarter in service roles unrelated to your status. Mentorship hours. Reserve weekly time to mentor someone junior without any immediate ROI expectations. Silence days. Quarterly digital detox to recalibrate priorities and escape feedback loops. These rituals prevent the moral corrosion that often follows long-term power. Conclusion: the ethical Machiavellian. Part 3 pulls the scalpel across the practice of influence. You now know how to read people, defend yourself against manipulators, weaponize negotiation ethically, and institutionalize ethical power. The secret: be ruthlessly prepared for the mechanics of human behavior while refusing to weaponize people's vulnerabilities. Deployment playbooks, legacy, and daily routines. Turning cold clarity into lasting influence. You've built presence, learned mechanics, and guarded your ethics. Now we move to the hardest part, applying all that reliably in the real world, under pressure, across teams and over time. This final part is pragmatic, playbooks you can follow, routines to maintain your edge, scripts you can use, metrics for course correction, and a plan for long-term legacy. Treat this as your field manual. 1. Deployment playbook. The 5-phase influence operation. Use this modular playbook whenever you need to influence a group, ship a change, or win a high-stakes negotiation. Phase 0. Recon, prepare, not assume. Duration: 48, 72 hours for big moves. 1-2 meetings for small moves. Actions: map stakeholders, incentives, BATNAs, red lines, and power centers. Record: 2 likely objections per stakeholder. Output: a 1-page stakeholder map with priorities and a contingency line for each major risk. Phase 1. Frame and prime, persuasion. Duration: initial meeting or pre-communication. Actions: craft the frame. Problem: right arrow cost of inaction, right arrow proposed path. Prime: shared values, and seed 1 vivid metaphor. Output: a 90-second opener you'll deliver to set the narrative, and 1 short email to reinforce it. Phase 2. Test and pilot, sandbox, low-risk rollout. Duration: 2-6 weeks. Actions: propose a pilot or split test, favored approach versus. Baseline: use clearly defined metrics. Output: pilot charter with KPIs, timeline, and decision criteria. Phase 3. Scale with controls, institutionalize. Duration: phased rollout 1-6 months. Actions: codify playbooks, train 2-3 lieutenants, set reporting cadence, and automate feedback loops. Output: policy document, training module, dashboard. Phase 4, guardrails and consolidation. Duration ongoing. Actions, implement ethical guardrails, appeals. Transparency, run quarterly audits. Rotate responsibilities to avoid capture. Output, audit log, rotation schedule, public summary of outcomes. Use this whenever you want influence that survives scrutiny and scales. 2. Actionable daily and weekly routines, the ritual stack. Rituals make strategy automatic. Adopt these and you don't have to will your presence, you maintain it. Daily, 15-25 minutes. Morning 5-minute prep. Objective for the day in 1 sentence. 1 boundary to enforce. 2 deep breath, 6-4-6, before every high-stakes interaction. End of day 10-minute debrief. 3 wins. 1 mistake, 1 corrective action. Weekly 1-2 hours. 30-minute reputation check. What stories are circulating? What needs reframing? 30-minute skill session. Role-play a negotiation or rehearse a pitch. 30-minute network maintenance. Reach out to 3 people with value. 15-minute ethics check. Any moves this week skirted guardrails. Document and correct. Monthly 3-4 hours. Deep learning. Read a case study or test a new influence tactic in a sandbox. Inner circle meeting. 60-90 minutes of honest feedback and blind spot surfacing. These rituals are compact but compound decisively. 3 metrics that matter. How to know if you're working. Influence must be measured. Use these non-narcissistic KPIs. Leading indicators, fast feedback. Response rate to outreach, emails, proposals. Number of commitments versus verbal agreements. Pilot adoption rate within first 2 weeks. Average decision cycle time, speed of decisions. Lagging indicators, longer-term validation. Retention, turnover, and teams you lead. Repeat partnerships or referrals. Reputation shift, mentions, testimonials, internal sentiment surveys. Goal outcomes achieved versus promised. Monitor leading indicators weekly. Lagging quarterly. If decision cycle time increases and commitments fall, recalibrate narrative and controls immediately. 4. Sample scripts and templates, practical language. Use these verbatim when you need them. Slightly adapt micro-phrasing to your voice. Frame opener 90 seconds. We're at a crossroads. Doing nothing risks X 1 sentence cost. We can take a clear path that achieves Y in Z timeframe, but it requires A, B, C commitments. If we agree to a 6-week pilot tracking metrics M and N, we'll know by date whether to scale. I propose we start with option X. Here's how it protects our people and improves outcomes. Boundary setting email. Quick note, I value prompt-focused updates. Going forward, please summarize project status in 3 lines by 3 p.m. every Friday. If anything exceeds scope, flag it immediately with a 1-line risk note. This helps us avoid last-minute scrambles. Handling covert resistance, verbal. I hear the concern about X. Tell me what would make this safe for you to try. If cost is the worry, what's a minimal pilot that would reduce that risk? Negotiation concession script. I can agree to X if you commit to Y in writing, and we run a 90-day review with explicit KPIs. That way both sides manage risk and preserve momentum. These scripts reduce friction and increase clarity. 5 common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Even the best strategies fail if you fall for predictable traps. Pitfall overreach. You push too fast, too wide. Fix, shorten pilots, tighten decision gates. Recruit one sympathetic ally before scaling. Pitfall moral drift. Small unethical choices accumulate. Fix, quarterly ethics audit. Public transparency triggers for high-impact actions. Pitfall echo chamber. The inner circle flatters, and you lose reality. Fix, rotate challengers. Incentivize dissent with explicit rewards. Pitfall burnout. Relentless strategic pressure erodes capacity. Fix, scheduled retreat. Silence days, enforced off hours. Anticipate these and embed fixes in your playbook. 6. Transition to institutional power. How to leave a constructive legacy. If your goal is lasting influence, you must outlive your personal brand and create systems. Step 1. Codify. Turn repeatable decisions into playbooks. Internalize the language, KPIs, and decision trees. Step 2. Delegate with constraints. Give leaders autonomy, but require compliance with non-negotiable guardrails. For example, no coercion, proportionality tests. Step 3. Train successors. Mentor 2. 3 people intensively with practical tasks and moral training. Use simulations and after-action reviews. Step 4. Institutionalize accountability. Create appeals processes, external review boards, or partner organizations to keep the system honest. A strong legacy converts your ethical influence into durable institutions. 7. A 30-90-day tactical plan. Execute this now. 30-day sprint, stabilize and pilot. Week 1, stakeholder mapping and 90-second frame creation. Week 2, launch a 2-4-week pilot on one initiative. Track 2, 3 leading KPIs. Week 3, gather feedback, adjust. Week 4, decide, pause, iterate, or scale. 90-day push, scale, and institutionalize. Month 2, codify successful pilot items into a playbook. Train 2 lieutenants. Month 3, implement controls, set audit process. Schedule inner circle review. End of 90 days. Publish a public summary or internal memo celebrating wins and outlining next steps. This cadence creates momentum without reckless scaling. 8. Exit strategy and when to let go. Power is temporary. Wisdom knows when to step back. Signs to plan your exit. Your systems succeed without you. You start valuing preservation over growth and no longer enjoy the craft. You want to pivot to mentorship, product creation, or broader civic work. A graceful exit cements legacy. Document your playbooks, empower successors, and make your last act one of institutional strengthening. 9. Final checklist before any major move. Ask yourself these 10 quick questions in order. What is the one-sentence frame? Who gains and who loses? And is it proportionate? What's the BATNA? What pilot can we run to test this? Who must be neutralized or converted, and how? What narrative will I use to prime stakeholders? What are the ethical guardrails triggered? Who will enforce those guardrails? How will we measure success in 2, 30, and 90 days? If it fails, what's the graceful retreat plan? If you can't answer them all quickly, delay action. Closing the last paradox. Cold method, warm purpose. Machiavelli taught us to see power as it is, not as we wish it to be. But the modern synthesis you now hold is a necessary evolution. Be clear, disciplined, and ruthlessly effective, while keeping human dignity and consent central. That's the real mastery. An aura that bends people to your will need not coerce. It can inspire, protect, and elevate. If you wield it with discipline and ethics, you can be cold in method and warm in purpose. That synthesis is rare. That synthesis endures. Forge the mask, cultivate the ice. Keep your hands clean and your heart accountable. The world will respond, people will follow, and what you build will last longer than your name.